Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Welcome to the party, pal!
Is Killing in the Name a Christmas song?
No! No! No!
Then how did Rage Against the Machine save Christmas? Have you ever had a crazy idea? One of those ideas that's just never gonna happen. A pipe dream, unrealistic, and purely a figment of your imagination. Well, today, I'm gonna tell you a wonderful Christmas story. And the best part is, it's 100% true.
True story.
It's set on Christmas and features a normal man from the magical town of Chelmsford in Essex. It has an evil reality TV star villain famous for his poor trousers and one of the most respected rock bands of all time here to save the day. Now strap yourself in, you naughty little elves. This is going to be a good one. Okay, let's stop the whole fucking Christmas vibe in here. Things are getting far too happy. Today's episode, I'm going to be telling you the story of how Rage Against the Machine saved Christmas. So strangely enough, our story about Rage Against the Machine starts with the British reality TV group Girls Aloud. And that's in 2002, a few years after Rage Against the Machine's first breakup and their final album, Renegades. Rage Against the Machine and Girls Aloud, I know, weird mix, but stick with me, please stick with me. By 2002, the reality TV show genre had absolutely overtaken our screens. Nowhere near the level it is now. It was still in its infancy in 2002, but it was still gaining absolutely millions of viewers in countries all over the world. In the UK, we originally had a show called Popstars. There's Davina McCall from 20 years ago, and the first season was won by a band called Hearsay. And I really never thought I would be covering a video on Girls Aloud and Hearsay, but here we are. The second season ended up being won by Girls Aloud, who eventually became probably the biggest manufactured pop band from that era. But the reason I'm telling you all this about a British pop group, and the reason I'm starting here in a documentary about Rage Against the Machine 2 years after their first breakup, is because eventually this all led to the awful British reality TV show Christmas #1 trend, where every year the X Factor, which had now overtaken Popstars, was guaranteed #1. Now, Girls Aloud got the first Christmas #1 in 2002 with this trend, with what is admittedly quite a good song, Sound of the Underground, and their show Popstars actually doesn't have anything to do with Simon Cowell, but it was the start, and it was the trendsetter. By 2005, the X Factor was the biggest show in the UK, bar none, and it was gaining millions of viewers week in, week out. And this was the beginning of the 4 Christmas #1s in a row that the X Factor ended up getting. So now it's 2009, and 5 of the last 7 Christmas #1s have been manufactured pop songs from a TV show. And to be honest, so much of the British public is tired. X Factor fatigue has really started to set in, and it really feels like it doesn't actually matter who wins the X Factor. The artist isn't getting #1, the X Factor is. It felt set up, not fair, and contrived. And the public, well, we'd had enough.
We are fed up of being spoon-fed, just watered down crap year after year.
So now it's time to introduce you to Jon Morter, a normal man from Essex who had tried a few early internet campaigns, but Jon was just a normal guy who, like most of us, in 2009 was very sick of the constant X Factor Christmas #1s. In 2008, he tried an idea to get Rick Astley to #1 instead of the X Factor, which did gain a little bit of exposure, with 30,000 people getting behind the idea, but it didn't really end up going anywhere. And in my opinion, I love Rick Astley, I love Never Gonna Give You Up, but it just wasn't the right song. So Jon mulled on it for a whole year. The idea was solid. 30,000 people got behind it. But it just needed a better song choice for this situation. Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Those are Rage Against the Machine's iconic lyrics protesting police brutality, the 1992 LA riots, and the beating of Rodney King. They are some of the most powerful lyrics ever written, from one of the greatest albums of all time. In 1992, Rage Against the Machine dropped their debut album, and to this day, it still sounds fresh, exciting, original, and is an absolute Hall of Fame fucking masterpiece. It's a 10 out of 10 untouchable album, and it's led by its iconic lead single, Killing in the Name. Rage enjoyed a ridiculously successful career, becoming one of the most respected bands of all time. But like I touched upon earlier, by 2002, they'd actually split up, and the three members, minus the lead singer Zach, had gone on to do the incredible, almost sequel band Audioslave, with their frontman being one of the greatest singers of all time, Chris Cornell. Rest in peace, Chris. You are the voice of a generation. While they did Audioslave, Zach continued his protesting outside of music with a few smaller projects, but he mainly was a protester. They did end up reuniting for a world tour in 2007 and 2008, including headline slots at Reading and Leeds and Coachella, but by 2009, things seemed to have quieted down again for the Rage Against the Machine camp, and they seemed to be going back into hiatus. There had been no new material since the earlier mentioned Renegades, and they were just touring the absolute classics. So this is where our three stories collide. December 2009. X Factor is guaranteed to be getting the 2009 Christmas #1, and the winner of the show hasn't even been decided yet. Rage Against the Machine have been inactive for close to 18 months now, finishing their reunion tour in September 2008. And our mate John, a Rage Against the Machine fan, well, he'd had that crazy idea. And it was the same idea as before. But instead of having Never Gonna Give You Up challenge in the X Factor, let's have arguably the greatest protest song of all time try. Let's have Rage Against the Machine try and smash the X Factor. And guys, this was a crazy idea. The song shouts "fuck you, I won't do what you tell me" 17 times in a row. And as I said earlier, this is a serious song about a real life police beating. It was a mad choice to try and beat such an established monopoly like the X Factor. And whilst Rage Against the Machine's debut album is mad respected, in terms of commercial success, yes, Rage were rock festival headliners worldwide, but when the album originally came out, it only got to 17 in the UK, and it unbelievably only got to 45 in the USA. The mainstream music fan on the street certainly wouldn't know who Rage Against the Machine was. My bloody mum didn't know who Rage Against the Machine was when I told her about this video. And a song that says "fuck you" 17 times in a row certainly ain't getting played on mainstream radio. But it was the perfect choice. It was the only choice. And I think this quote from Tom Morello sums it up perfectly.
Well, I mean, this has been a real, completely grassroots campaign started by real fans of music, and I think it's tapped into the silent majority of the people in the UK are tired of being spoon-fed one schmaltzy ballad after another, and they want to take back their own charts. And we are honored that they've chosen our song to be the rebel anthem to try to topple the X Factor monopoly. The X Factor song was written by a cabal of overpaid songwriters to shove that schmaltzy business down your throats. So they're two very different choices, and I think it's an excellent lesson for people that whether it's in a small matter, like who's at the top of the charts, or bigger matters like war and peace and economic inequality, when people band together and make their voices heard, they can completely overturn the system as it is.
By December 15th, less than 2 weeks after the official Facebook campaign had been launched, the page had 750,000 members, all wanting X Factor off the top. And famously, the X Factor would give a lot of its profits to charity. So John, the campaign organisers, and Rage Against the Machine all arranged that money would be given to shelter. So this obviously meant that no charity was losing out. But Simon Big Cow Trousers did come out and call the campaign cynical and stupid. And to be honest, I actually think this helped Rage and hurt his cause quite a lot. People genuinely were sick of the X Factor in the UK. And this campaign was anything but cynical. And here's Mr. Zach De La Roche's opinion on Mr. Simon Cowell.
And what do you guys think of Simon Cowell?
Well, Simon is an interesting character who seems to have profited greatly off humiliating people on live television, and has a unique position of someone who could not only capture the attention of some people on television, but also on the airwaves. And we see this as a necessary break in the chain of that control.
Tons of celebrities got involved in the campaign, including Mr. Paul McCartney, who'd even appeared on X Factor himself previously. So shout out Paul McCartney, who probably got a nice paycheck from Mr. Big Trousers, but also went against them as well. And then Rage Against the Machine performed the song live on BBC Radio 5 in anticipation of the chart battle, and they had been asked in advance to censor the swear words and the fuck you refrain, which went on 17 times in a row. Rage said they wouldn't swear. Well, here's what happened.
Fuck you, get rid of it. Sorry, we needed to get rid of that because that suddenly turned into something we were not... we were expecting it and asked them not to do it, and they did it anyway. So buy Joe's Records. It's 3...
And when she says go buy Joe's Records, Joe is the X Factor's choice. I love that clip so much. And then, on December 20th, 2009, it was time. Had Rage done it? Had Rage Against the Machine beaten the X Factor?
Let's find out. Who is this week's number 2 on the official chart 2009 for Christmas?
2.
It's Joe.
Kill It in the Name became the first ever download-only song to become Christmas number 1. They fucking did it. 500,000 copies sold in 3 weeks. Rage Against the Machine's 15-year-old protest song was top of the charts. It became the most listened to UK chart show in 15 years and was the biggest chart battle seen since Oasis versus Blur in the 90s. A grassroots campaign, the likes of which we will probably never see again, fucking did it. And to be fair to him, Mr. Simon Big Cow Trousers did call John, and he did congratulate him.
Really fascinated by this phone call. Supposedly Simon Cowell called you up, and I mean, where were you when the call came in? Just talk us through the whole thing.
I was actually standing in my kitchen late last night, just making a cup of tea, and the phone went, answered it, and it was Simon Cowell on the other end of the phone. So yeah, it was very sweet.
What did he say when he said hello, it's Simon Cowell?
I had to sit down because I didn't actually believe him at first.
Yeah.
I must be honest with you. I thought it was someone winding me up. But when he started talking, I thought, no, actually, this is Simon Cowell speaking. So I sat down at the table and had a really, really pleasant conversation with him, actually, I've got to say.
What did he say to you? Because initially, he really didn't like this.
No, he didn't, no. And he was very... how do I put it? It was just very pleasant. He commended us on the campaign. He said that we conducted ourselves very well, and he thanked us for just making the Christmas #1 race just with a bit of pizzazz again, and just giving it a bit of a kick up the rear, if you like.
Have you ever had a crazy idea? One of those ideas that's just never going to happen? A pipe dream? Unrealistic? And purely a figment of your imagination? Well, maybe it might fucking pull off one day. I really feel like this moment does not get the props it deserves. In my opinion, this is one of the greatest musical moments of my lifetime. A grassroots campaign getting a bloody protest song to Christmas #1 against the X Factor, which had dominated the charts. Fuck you, the British public will not do what you tell them. 6 months later, Rage performed a totally free show at Finsbury Park in London. It was meant to be for 40k people, but due to break-ins, it's rumoured to have swelled to nearly 80,000 people. And our mate John was handed a cheque on stage for 170 grand. That was the money that had been raised for charity. To this day, the song is in the Guinness World Book of Records for fastest selling digital track ever. But most importantly, this goes to show that anything is possible musically when we come together. And that is the story of how Rage Against the Machine saved Christmas. Guys, if you got to the end of this video, I really hope you enjoyed it. Put loads of effort into this one. Please hit subscribe. Love you as always. Thank you for watching The Gig Nerd. Take care. Love you, Rage Against the Machine. Love you, John.